Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gaelic Lives podcast. And welcome back to our weekly review show. And we're looking back at four of the county finals that took place over the weekend. Mal, two new names on the cups in Tyrone and Armagh, and two familiar names in Fermanagh and Monaghan. So we'll start with Tyrone. You were at Omagh yesterday, and Loch McCorry created history. We're going to hear from Rory McCulla. You spoke to him after the game, Mal, but you were there. Tell us what it was like.
Sean, to be at a game when a team wins the title for the first time is just amazing. We'll talk about the game itself because there were so many key points, but just one of the moments I remember taking a video on the pitch afterwards, and there was these two women just hugging each other on the pitch, and they're literally sort of half crying, saying, I just can't believe this day, whatever it's actually happened. I'm not sure if they related to any of the players or anything like that, but it's just that sheer raw emotion that was there. Obviously, the colour and everything that went with it. And I suppose from Loch McCorry's point of view, they were hit with real sucker punch last year, I think, by Dungannon. And you wonder, is that day ever going to come? And they've never been in a final before. And then to play a Trillic team that was playing, I think it was their sixth final in 11 years. So a bit like the Illinois beating Cargan, for Loch McCorry to go and stand toe-to-toe with a team, with a group of players of that level of consistency, and to win was fantastic. And to be honest, Sean, the scoreline probably didn't do Loch McCorry justice in terms of how well they played once they got settled. And I suppose generally the two goals were preventable as well, as much as Kieran Daly's second goal was brilliantly finished to the net. A goal made by Matty Donnelly. I think if Loch McCorry had left it behind them, they would have just been so frustrated because they brought so much to the game.
I suppose the first time thing, Mal, there's a pressure on that too, and we're going to speak about it when we come to Armagh as well, obviously, but there's a pressure with that. Did you feel that with Loch McCorry, or did they play with confidence, Mal, or what was the nervous? Was there a nervous tension, or how was the atmosphere?
Well, you always hear that, Sean, where somebody says you're in your first final and it takes you got to lose 1-1 one, but in a county like Tyrone, you might never be back in a final for maybe 2 or 3 years, so there probably is a bit of pressure. And I suppose, like, from Loch McCorry's point of view, Owen Donaghy and Anton Fox were injured, and they only had a squad of 23 fit players togged out on the day, so they're picking from quite a small pool. But when you talk about growing into a game, they probably couldn't have got off to a worse start, to be fair. Dara Curran made a great interception on Lee Brennan, and then Michael McNamee just lost possession over the bar. Goalkeeper Oisin O'Keefe dropped the ball. Lee Brennan put over a 45 into the wind, and then the ball went up the other end of the pitch, and I think it was Ronan Fox. He was brilliant all through. He just made a handling error, and those 3 errors, all of a sudden, a team like Trillic punishes you. So you're thinking to yourself, with the breeze, Sean, how much of a breeze, how much was the breeze worth? We sort of, myself and my nephew there, were chatting. We thought, was it a 5 or 6 point breeze? And they were 3-0 down. But they completely attacked. Whenever they did have the revival, Sean, it was Owen McElhone made a point for Ruairi McCullagh, and those two lads, we all know about them as being the youngsters coming to say they scored 10 points out of 18. So you felt as the game went on, I suppose, to answer your question, that they nearly needed to get every chance. They needed to take every chance they got. And as the game went on, Trillic, I don't think were ever ahead after they got level at 3-3. So Loch McCorry did all the playing, Sean, and it was, and I suppose, to sum up the first half, they led 12 points to 1-6, and they were very close to having the perfect half. Like those couple of errors that they recovered from, they might have took a couple of pot shots that maybe they felt they had to do with the breeze, and then there was a ball that dropped into Lee Brennan, and Oisin O'Keefe, unfortunately, he took it just slipped out of his hands or whatever, and Kieran Daly put the ball to the net. But immediately there was a response. Loch McCorry came with a response, and I think where Loch McCorry's kickouts they were working them to Shea Conway and Shane Dobbs, they were able to work it out. Whereas at the other end, Loch McCorry had a really good tactic in the fact that Shane Dobbs was one of their smallest defenders. They actually played him as a sweeper, and Oisin McCullagh at midfield, because they had the wind, so that was able to help them control the middle sector. And then the game was probably decided, I would say, Owen McElhone's 2-pointer before half time, followed by, I think it was Aidan Donaghy made it at the point, and that put them 3 up. So the 3-point margin, the goal was wiped out and all that. But then Ronan Fox won the first 2 breaking balls of the second half, Sean, and Loch McCorry scored off the both of them, and Cathal Donaghy scored 5 points, all at important times, 3 of them early in the second half. Then came the goal, because the story of the first half was how they used Oisin O'Kane and Shane Dobbs and with a height disadvantage. They're able to manage that, but in the second half of the breeze they weren't able to. So Oisin was back on his line, and it was a big ball over the top of midfield from Joe Maguire, who kicked brilliantly in the second half after sort of being closed down in the first half. And Matty Donnelly, the man, has got so much experience. He went through, give it to Kieran Daly, bottom corner, and that was back to 2 points. But just Loch McCorry always seemed to have an answer. And, the thing I sort of worried about from Loch McCorry's point of view is, Trillick had Richie Donnelly on the bench, a man of that stature, whereas Loch McCorry, with their 2 injuries, they didn't have the same level of strength and depth. And whenever they brought on Richie Donnelly, there's a height mismatch. But eventually they got Ronan Fox on them. So they seem to have everything sort of tied up. But at the end, the game nearly turned on a breach. I suppose, Sean, you're probably seeing that too in other games where there was a breach where somebody stepped out over the line. I didn't really see it properly myself, to be honest. But there was a breach and it was carried forward. And maybe a bit of a talking point at the time. I think we're 6 minutes to go. And Trillick were 1 point down. And Lee Brennan had a chance. And he went for a 1-pointer as opposed to taking it back out, because he had kicked a 45, and he's a really good kicker off the ground, Lee Brennan, but maybe there was a tactic from the line about, look, just keep the scoreboard ticking. But at that time, I remember thinking to myself, well, here's another chance for Loch McCorry, and, Rory McCulla dropped one short that, he had been kicking well all day, and then there was people just throwing their bodies in the lane, and then Gareth Donaghy kicked the winning point. At the time, it wasn't the winning point, but looking back, I remember seeing him out across the sea of fans at the end, and he was being carried head high, and I just remember thinking, here's the man who kicked the winner, being carried on a sea of fans. But here, like Shawnee O'Donnell was really incisive for Trillick, but by and large, Loch McCorry were able to tactically sort of impose themselves on the game, get their key players in the right positions. They got the bounce of a ball at a time or two at the same time when a few of them went against them, Sean. So it was pretty balanced that way, but the game itself was it was a brilliant occasion. And as I say, as somebody neutral in Healy Park, just watching a real dig duster of a game for a team to win it, back to my most important point of the day, a team that has won the championship for the first time ever. And, they've an exceptional management team led by Marty Boyle. Here, I'm not going to circle into them, but I suppose one man jumps out of it. It's Kieran Mina. He's been probably invested a lot in the club all through the ranks, and I interviewed him afterwards the game, and he just says something along the lines of what this means for any club in Ireland. You'll probably come to it when you're chatting about Madden, Sean, that any club could have aspirations of being in junior and then just doing the work, getting the right people involved. And he talked about, he dreamt about watching Loch McCorry march behind the band even just once. At that stage, I looked over his shoulder and there was a man jumping up and down in the O'Neill Cup, and I was thinking, they've done that and more. So magical scenes. And the captain says, we're going to enjoy the best week of our lives. So you can just imagine what that looks like today, Sean.
Monday clubs in full swing, Mal. This is the time of the year for the Monday clubs. Same in Madden, no doubt. But yeah, you spoke to Ruairi McCulla after the game, so we're going to hear from Ruairi now, and we'll come back and chat about Madden's win over Cullyhanna.
First ever title for Loch McCorry to be involved. What's that like?
It's unbelievable. Like, you look at all the people out there, it means so much to us as a community, and to see Nathan up there, one of my best friends, lift that O'Neill Cup, it was a really special moment.
What is so special about the group? Because you've been there, knocked the door, it didn't open. Today it has opened. What is it about your group?
Look, about our group, we train so hard all year. In fairness to the management team, they know when to taper it up, when to taper down accordingly for games. we had a fierce battle in the semi-final and a fierce battle there today again against a fierce Gaelic team. So we were just really happy when that final whistle went, and look at all the people here. It's unbelievable.
What was the thoughts at half time? Because the breeze seemed to be favouring you, but you've got the last 2 scores to go 3 up. What was it like in the dressing room at that stage?
Yeah, we said before the game we have the breeze. We need to make sure we go for it. They had a really good start, went 3-0 up, but I think we hit 7 on the bounce then. So I think that period really stood us throughout the game and gave us that good platform going into the second half as well.
Obviously the second goal came, but then you were always able to, you never went behind. I think was probably the biggie for you.
Yeah, in fairness, I don't think we've been behind much this year. That's credit to our defence, the way we carry the ball out of defence. And Trillick, they're so good at pressing high, and our boys have to be so strong in the tackle, and we've done that today.
What does it do for your community? Because the scenes were insane. I'm sure it's dreamland's probably the word, but what does it do for your whole Loch McCorry?
It puts us on the map, so it does. People might never know Loch McCorry. We never made the semi-final before this year, never mind winning the thing. So it's unbelievable for the community, for the people in the school to have role models to look up to. Like when we were at school, we were playing junior, and it was tough times for the club. But we had to start somewhere. We brought it right from the underage, from the bone schools in the school. We won Ulsters with it, and we got a core right through, and everyone's shone through now today, and they're all county champions.
You speak there about the underage and the building blocks, but as a senior group, when did you feel you were real serious contenders for the cup? Today is the first time you've won it, but was there a year you felt we have a group here that can win this thing?
Yeah, so basically I only came in last year, so it was hard to say. I was involved with the teams for 2 years previous against Dungannon and Trillick. But
you would have been watching on from outside to see. So
it was different. It's obviously different playing. So as soon as I came in fairness to the management, it hasn't changed, and we had full belief last year that we were going to do it. It just didn't happen for us.
You hit a real sucker punch.
They got a late goal, But that just shows how much we've grown as a group. Carrickmore scored a goal here in the semi-final, and we actually came back and won the game this year, and that shows the building blocks we've done. We were able to see out last 10 minutes of games this year compared to last year, where maybe we're under a lot of caution, and to win it in 2025, first for the club's history, it means a whole lot to us.
Mal, there's a nice segue to go from the Tyrone Championship final into the Armagh Championship final, and that's the Grimley family, because Ryan Grimley was playing for Loch McCorry, now Grimley's brother. So I think he come on. Did he score a point? He come on and scored a point. I think that was the talk.
No, that must have been. There must have been a bit of.
Must have been after a few pints, that actually.
Yeah, I wonder what time that story was told. That he definitely came on, and I remember thinking to myself, I pulled out my phone to see what the score line was, and I thought, what a day for that family. You know yourself, you come from a GA background, what it does for your community, and for two men to win county medals on the same day with clubs that have never won it before. If anybody's listening and can think of something else similar, would love to hear about it, but that has to be a first.
It's sensational, and Madden were full value. They were so good yesterday. I can't describe. Probably as a neutral at the game, it was a poor county final because Madden were so superior. It was one-sided, but Madden just controlled the game, controlled the tempo right from the first whistle. They got the first 2 points, then Aidan Nugent hit back with a 2-pointer, and Dara McMullen, who we're going to hear from in a wee bit, he come back and scored a 2-pointer of his own, and Madden were just so comfortable. And throughout this championship, Cullyhanna have been hailed as the comeback kings. They've trailed at half time in I think every one of their championship games, and they've come back to win it. So there was 6 in it at half time, and I was just thinking maybe Madden aren't far enough ahead to win the game. But because we knew that the sort of Cullyhanna onslaught was coming, but Cullinane get the first 3 points of the second half, and it felt like, right, okay, game on here. But again, Madden just so controlled, so patient, just killed the game, made sure not to give away easy turnovers, and in their own defence, they battled unbelievably hard. There was two real big turnovers stood out. Peter Lappin got one off Mickey Murray, and Tony O'Hagan, the Madden captain, got one off Jason Duffy. And not only were the big turnovers, Mal, there were big turnovers that resulted in scores. So it went from maybe being a 4-point game to an 8-point game, and Madden just saw it out then. I mentioned McMullen. We are going to hear from him. He got man of the match, and I say it was the easiest man of the match ever picked at a county final that I can remember anyway. For a forward that I think he scored 3 points, but it wasn't for his scoring ability or the points he was kicking. It was just everything else. We've seen him with Armagh this year. The pace he has, the direct running, the agility to bounce out of tackles and still keep the ball. His fast feet, his braveness around the middle of the field to go and win break balls up and down the field. McMullen, he was phenomenal, and he deservedly pick up the Man of the Match award. And of course, just when we were speaking about the Grimleys there, I was telling you off air, Mal, I was at Madden Club last night, and Ryan Grimley come in after a while with his Loch McCorry top on him. So he was getting the bumps, and he was up on the stage and everything.
Class.
So, there's a nice I got a picture of him and his father Brian as well. Nanelle and Liam, the other two brothers that were on the Madden team, I didn't see them knocking about at that stage, but I'm sure there's going to be plenty of good videos and photos of the Grimley clan, and it's worth mentioning, and it's probably been well documented at this stage, the tough time Madden have had, the last 2 years. They lost their secretary Patrick Grimley and his wife, and of course Ciara McElvanna as well, in a tragic car accident. And it was a poignant moment yesterday too, Mal, because the Grimleys are Madden. There's so many of them that it's just Brian, former chairman, and obviously there's Liam, there's Ryan there, former players, Kieran as well. There's a whole crowd of them. There's cousins, there's Connor and Owen that were playing yesterday. So the Grimley clan, they are Madden, and for them both to experience 2 county titles for the first time ever yesterday, it was phenomenal, and it was something. It was really special to be at, I have to say. And I don't think anybody would begrudge Madden the victory. For Cullinane, they'll have regrets. Mal, it's the second time they've done it in 2016, and they've done it this year, that they beat Crossmaglen in the semi-final and didn't go on to win it, which is going to be tough to take for them. And probably the toughest thing is that they just didn't perform. They didn't turn up on the day. But no, congratulations to Madden. They were the better team, and they deserved to win it in the end.
Going into the game, Sean, was it 50-50? Was there a favourite? From listening to it, the way you're talking it there, as if Madden showed up, imposed themselves on the game, said this is the way we're playing, and it's up to somebody else to stop that. So that's what it sounds like. But before a ball was kicked, what was the sort of general thought going into it?
I felt the whole week, anybody asked me for my prediction, Mal, I says I think Madden will win, but I'm 52% Madden, 48% Cullinane. It was probably as 50-50 a game as you could get.
Yeah.
Now, anybody I was talking to during the week and chatting to people, a lot of people were edging towards Madden, but yesterday at the game, I was talking to a load of people and they were going for Cullinane. So that's just the way it was. It was a toss of a coin, really. And when it come down to it, Cullinane didn't play as well as, their big comeback didn't come, but Madden, on the other hand, played unbelievable. That was their best performance of the year. They saved their best for last. And as I said, it wasn't all gung-ho, although they did score 20 points. A lot of it was controlled, just making sure that Cullinane didn't get possession, didn't get that comeback, didn't get any momentum. And then they picked the holes. Conor Grimley scored. I think he finished with 8 points. Joe Sheridan got 3. McMullen got 3. The whole half back line come up and got a score as well. So it was as 50-50 a final as you could get until the ball was through in, and then Madden were just dominant, really, from first whistle to last.
And finally, just before we hear from Dara, was it the jersey number on his back was probably irrelevant? Did it literally just pop up everywhere? Is that just for somebody listening for somebody listening who wasn't at the game, was that just the way it was? Wherever the ball was, he seemed to be.
He was brilliant, man. And I suppose the one criticism or the one thing you could say about Dara McMullen, he has everything, only his shooting wouldn't be, his shooting wouldn't be brilliant. He wouldn't be known for his scoring. But as I mentioned early on, he got a 2-point chance and he sailed it over the bar. So that sort of helped set the tone for him. But up and down the field, winning break balls. And the way he operates, it's his pace, man, but it's his jinky style, I suppose you would call it too. He's impossible to even, if you were a physical defender trying to, slow him down a bit. He's very elusive. He's very hard to get a hand on.
It was a wee bit like McElhoon yesterday. Like McElhoon was playing with his head up, and whenever play needed linked, he was able to dance in around. And that's my vision of Darragh McMullen and the Armagh jersey from watching him. You just, I don't know, you can understand why Geezer had him in, so early, and how he's developed him into being the player that he is, I suppose, as well. But what a day for Madden. Whenever the Grimleys were united, that must have been just an amazing moment. So another chapter in our book that we always talk about, Sean, about the club season and the stories and all those types of things, and that's just another example. So the show goes on.
Unbelievable stuff, unbelievable. But yeah, where I spoke to Dara McMullen after the game, so we'll hear from Dara now, and then we're going to review the Fermanagh and Monaghan finals. Monaghan watched a county final and a county champion. How does that sound?
Still hasn't hit in. I was standing up the top there and then turned around to Owen Grimley and said, this just doesn't feel real at all. It's just, I don't know what to think of it. And like Monaghan watches, I didn't know it took that by surprise. You don't really think them things, but it's a brilliant achievement, and happy for myself and my family and my teammates. But yeah, happy for the boys, definitely.
And tell me about the game, Dara, because you were so controlled. You got the first point, the second point, and you were ahead nearly for the rest of the game. So was that the game plan, just to take the sting out of the game a couple of times and not let Cullyhanna build momentum?
Yeah, I suppose it was similar enough to Clonard. We went hard at it in the first half, and it kind of set us a stall going in the second half. Yeah, Cullyhanna came back. We knew they were going to come back in the second half to get some scores, and the crowd got behind them and stuff, but we just settled ourselves in the second half there about 10-15 minutes in. It took us a while to get going, but yeah, just chipping in with a simple scores there in the end, and we're glad to get over the line.
And probably in terms of the scoring charts, you got a 2-pointer tonight. Connor got a good few. There was a lot of good scores, but a couple of massive turnovers. Peter Lappin got one, Tony O'Hagan got one. That's probably where the winning of the game was, your defence as much as your attack.
Yeah, everyone's been talking about our defender, our attacking team all year, but when you come down to stats, it was our defence. We were keeping teams, I think, on average maybe 11-12 points a game, and again showed the other day. I'm not sure what the score ended up, but yeah, our defence has been tight all year, and we trust them boys to pick up key men on the other team, and they've done that again today.
And I suppose that we were talking on the podcast the other day, both teams had averaged 20 points a game. Obviously Cullyhanna didn't reach that. You actually reached that with Connor's last point, so was that the target? If you want to win this, you had to get 20 plus points?
Yeah, well, I suppose with the new rules it is a new target. If you're hitting 20 points, you're a good chance to win the game, but this last couple of weeks the weather has changed and games have been finishing maybe max 14 points for the team that wins, but we did target during the week 20 points to win this game, especially with the scoring threats Cullyhanna have, the 2 points and stuff, and I suppose we just got lucky hitting the 20 point mark right in the dot, so yeah, happy with it.
What's tonight on the next couple of nights going to be like, Darragh?
Oh Jesus, it's hard not to think of it there during the week, but I am buzzing for the night. I don't know what it's going to bring, but looking forward to the club, and it's special for the club and the people, especially what's happened over this last couple of years, and yeah, we did it for them, and the celebrations will be good tonight. Yeah.
I can confirm the celebrations were good. Dara lived up to Dara's hype. But Mal, there was 2 more county finals over the weekend, and it was a replay in Fermanagh and Gales against Darragh McMullen, and the Cup's going back there in Gales once again.
Yeah, they've been busy in the finals, Sean. They had 2 defeats. Then they won the championship. They had a draw in the drawing game, and then they came to win it. And you're supposed to beat Darragh McMullen. Darragh McMullen will probably point to a free at the end of the drawing game where Aaron Gales got back and got level. And I suppose the good thing about the Gales is they are champions. They have been in a few tight corners this year. They've come out, but whenever it came to the biggest day, whenever the cup was there to be won, they built it up in the first half. I think they were 1-9 to 4 up at half time, Ryan Lyons and Ultan Kelm were pretty good for them from what I could hear. Gary McKenna got a point for Darragh, I think within the first minute. Shane McGullion got another point. They had sort of settled in well, Sean, from what I've been reading this morning. I wasn't at the game. I was on holidays and was only home on Sunday, so sort of reading up a wee bit of research on it this morning. And Ultan Kelm's goal, I think it came in the, check the time here, but it put them on the way to 1-9 to 4 points lead. They lost Tommy McCarthy to a black card slightly before half time. And then in the third quarter, Darragh had their spell. Lee Jones got a goal, but I think they had another couple of goal chances, Sean. I think they may have hit the woodwork a couple of times. Goalkeeper Brian Ryder made a vital save. So from the Harps' point of view, they'll be look back and think, well, you know, we left a lot of chances behind ourselves. But again, there was a fisted point that put Gales 1-10 to 4 points up just after half time, and then Mickey Jones he got a massive point. Lee Jones got a goal, so they were back into it. Now, obviously, they're without the Connell and Ryan and Garvin Jones, who had transferred out to Leitrim Gales. So that was 3 big misses from their equation. But with Gary McKenna got a point, he had sort of been their leading forward, you know, during the season. It was 1-10 to 1-8, 2-point game, and but in the end it was Seamus Ryder, who actually managed him, I think, to win the intermediate before Declan Bonner took over. So he kicked a point. Aidan Kelm got a point. So that was that at the end. Like, they pushed on. But again, from Darragh point of view, I know there's 2 stories to final all the time, but Darragh will regret those missed chances, and you just wonder, could the game have been different? Especially whenever in the drawn game, you know, they went all the way and were actually leading going into stoppage time. So that will be their side of it. But for Aaron Gales to have a second title, Declan Bonner obviously coming in as manager, you know, he's obviously stepping into the Fermanagh job. So he was chatting to you in his interview, Sean, about just keeping the door open to everybody. So at whatever stage he steps into the Fermanagh job full time, he will know exactly what's there. You know, see what Darragh have had, see what everybody has had. But for now, they've Kingscourt, I think, away from home, as far as I remember. I think that's the way the fixture falls. So that's next up for them. But what a result! They just seem to be, from chatting to Fermanagh people, they just seem to be a championship that quite a few teams could have won, but Aaron Gales on a couple of occasions were nearly gone. There was a group where it was sort of the group of death at a stage, but they came through, and then obviously in the key moments they stood up and got the important scores, and I suppose that leaves them going into Ulster in the next few weeks. But a county final on Saturday, I'm sure they had a good day to themselves on Sunday, and then back to square one. Because as much as you always hear this thing, you know, where do you celebrate or do you not? I think you have to. You literally do. You just have to embrace it, and because at the end of the day, that's what you're preparing all year for. And if you got yourself to a decent level of conditioning, then once the party is put on ice, then it's back to square one, back to Ulster. And I suppose, Sean, because they won it last year, they'll be looking to see can they go that wee bit further. But you've Kingscourt and Jordan Morris to contend with next, but they're there. And I think Madden are going to come up against the winners of Newbridge or Dunloy. So you'd imagine somebody will be in Owenbeg on Saturday to see that. And from Loch McCorry's point of view, they play Kilcoo, which is a really interesting one, where Conor Laverty is very much, I suppose, Mr. Kilcoo in terms of their development, and Kieran Bina the same. And I'm sure how many times have we been on the pod where the two men had nearly toppled Armagh and in an Ulster semi-final, so they would be so close as football people. So now all of a sudden, I would imagine there'll not be much talking done over the next couple of weeks, but Ulster to come, and I suppose from Anna's point of view, it's Aaron Gales who step in, having retained their title. So when you retain your title, it's always a good step going into Ulster, I feel.
Yeah, and we caught up Ultan Kelm after the game, so we'll hear from Ultan now, and then we'll talk about the Monaghan final.
Ultan Kelm, Aaron Gales, county champions once again, and man of the match to boot. Fantastic, and congratulations. How does it feel?
Oh, it's unbelievable, Park, unbelievable. Didn't make it easy again. Wouldn't have been happy last week at all with our performance. I suppose our performance throughout the championship haven't been to the level we know we can play at. So there's been a lot of hard questions asked from management team and from ourselves. I suppose it's a strange enough dynamic for myself, having only started last week and not really having trained much at all year. So I suppose this week there was no tactics. There was just about us proving, I suppose, being at training all year and seeing what the boys can do. I feel like our group of players is at a top level, but it was just about trying to put a performance that replicated that what we can do in training week in, week out. And what a day to do it on the championship final replay. But a savage performance from everyone.
Midway through that second half, that Lee Jones goal for Darragh really brought them much closer to this in the scoreboard. But you really drove the team on, and you finished probably the stronger of the two sides as well.
Yeah, I suppose that 10 minutes that Tommy was off at the start of the second half, and a bit of a breeze that was blowing down into the goals, and Darragh only put a massive squeeze on our kickouts, which we struggled to get out with, and we knew they were going to throw the kitchen sink at us in that spell, and it was just trying to, suppose when we had that bit of a cushion, get a score to counteract their flow, but we probably didn't really get it. Let them back into it, did a few wides near the end again, but I suppose just trying to get that Shamey score, I think when he came on, was massive, and then Egon score to finish out was just exactly what needed to give that bit of breathing space.
And Mal, it's the same again in Monaghan. Scottstown are county champions once again. I think it's their 10th time in 13 years. So this one was maybe a bit trickier for them than other years. This one went all the way to extra time against Enniskeane. They were chasing their first championship title since 1946. So it nearly feels like they were going for their first one all over again, while Scottstown, we know the experience that they have, both winning in Ulster, in Monaghan, and then their performances in Ulster over the last decade plus as well. So this game, Conor McCarthy and Ryan O'Toole both returned to Scottstown. They had a few injuries throughout the championship, and they both had a couple of big saves, as did Darren Hughes. He lasted the full 80 minutes, I think, and made a goal line clearance in the second half of extra time as well. So I suppose the big names on the Scottstown team sheet, they always stand up to be counted, but the one man, the top scorer on the day, was Tommy Mullen, and I think I've spoken about Tommy Mullen before on the
brilliant
podcast.
Player, absolutely brilliant player. I remember you saying that, Sean, and I followed that minor team quite a bit because we were playing against Derry, and I thought he was in their top 3 players every time I watched him. He was brilliant, so I'm glad to hear you mention his name because he's one I've been keeping an eye on.
Yeah, he was the same, because I was the same. I've seen that Monaghan minor team a couple of times that year. They played Armagh a couple of times and seen them doing Ulster and All-Ireland final and stuff. And I remember asking Dermot Malone, who was the manager at the time, about Tommy Mullen and who is he and where's he from and what's he going to be like and whatever else. And Dermot was sort of confirming to me that he was one for the future. But the thing about it, Mal, he was centre-half back on that Monaghan team, and a really good centre-half back and an attacking force as well. But he seems to be playing in the forward line for Scottstown, and he scored 7 points yesterday. A 2-pointer and 5 singles, all from play. So obviously a versatile player and somebody that can mix it up and sort of play wherever Scottstown need him. But he top scored, but yeah, the likes of Jack McCarn and Shane Carey, I think they got 0-4 apiece. So when you have that firepower, you're always going to be in with a chance. But Scottstown, there were 4 up at half time. I think it was 10-6 at half time, and in a scheme come back into it. It was nip and tuck towards the end of the game, and Andrew Woods, he got the free that levelled the game and took it to extra time. And in extra time, it seems Scottstown just sort of took control. Then they won extra time 7-2. So I suppose no complaints for anybody. They were the better team after extra time, and they've been the best team in Monaghan obviously for 10 of the last 13 years, and they'll have a big say in this Ulster Championship. And I suppose just before we wrap up, Mal, the Ulster Championship, it's Kilcoo and Scottstown, I suppose, the 2 standout teams in it, but there's gonna be some crackers in this Ulster Championship because of the stories that it's gonna create.
There is like I know we spoke last week, and at that stage Trillick were still in the mix and had been, a seasoned team in Ulster. They played big games. They probably felt they left the Scottstown, was it the semi-final behind them? It was a really good game that day as well. But like Kilcoo, 13 in a row, isn't it? Sorry, 13.
12 and 13, is it?
12 and 13.
13 and 14.
Yeah, 13 and 14, but the 7 in a row, that level of consistency, I think that always counts for something, definitely. And Kilcoo, I suppose, they'll probably get into the competition as favourites, just with their recent All-Ireland champions and regular being in Ulster finals, and they've won finals, lost finals. So, but again, the Scottstown team have been knocking that door, and Scottstown against Niamh Connell is probably the tie of the round. I know there will be loads of really interesting games, but just the fact of it's that whole thing about Niamh Connell were nearly beat a couple of times in Donegal, but they never knew. Like, I always use your example about the list of people who nearly beat Crossmaglen, and it keeps rising. And it's the same with Niamh Connell. Like the thing about them is they just my take on them is they have 3 teams within a team. They have the 4 lads who have all the 8 medals. There's the 3 young boys who come in this year to win their first one, and then they have the boys in the middle. And the Slanthill team who won in 14 and 15, they had something similar. I think the age profile is very important. And then obviously, Kilcoo they have a couple of young lads. I remember chatting to Michael Kane. He says, look, we have a couple of boys coming out of minor that are ready. So they keep turning over players. And there was a great wee video, a photo montage on Kilcoo's website where it looked to be one of the underage teams were training along with seniors. And you're thinking, what a thing to do to, you wonder how tradition keeps carrying on. Sean, there's the perfect example.
Yeah.
The young lads are training along with their gods at training. So they want to be the seniors. And then, as you say, Scottstown with the likes of Tommy Mallon, Max Maguire have stepped in on top of like Rory Began, like one of the best keepers in Ireland. So they've so much going for them. And then you have, can Newbridge make the breakthrough? Where can Madden go? What about Loch McCorry? Can they turn over Kilcoo? And I suppose the Conor Laverty versus Kieran Mina dynamic there as well. So there's lots of stories popping up across it. And but I think probably Kilcoo would be favourites at the moment. But again, that's only on what's happened in the past. And as this season has proven so far, and look at Armagh and look at Tyrone, that sometimes what happens in the past is irrelevant. And like Slanthill came in 2014 with a team and won Ulster at the first attempt. So who knows?
Yeah, there's so much to talk about leading into the Ulster Championship, but we'll be right across it as we always are, with the Ulster Championship leading into our All-Stars, which are an exciting time of the year as well. So that's all we have for our review show. We'll be back on Thursday and we'll have another podcast, and then we'll be back next Monday as well, and we'll review all the action from this weekend. So thanks to everyone that's tuned in. Thanks to everyone that chatted to us after the county final wins. And thanks to Mal for giving us the lowdown on the few games he was at. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll chat to everybody on Thursday.